Hello, everyone. This is John with Hunting the Country 704 Style. And this week we've got a special guest, a friend we met last year. And we've actually known him for quite a while. I followed him on social media for a while, but I wasn't formally introduced until last year. I've got Mr. Corey here in the studio from South Texas, and he goes by the name Hog Sniper. What's going on, Corey?
How's it going?
So now I've met you through John, but I followed you for a long time because honestly, everything hog hunting, I've always followed everybody, and I was like, Hog Sniper, like this is a person I need to follow. Like everything in the hog hunting world I've known, but I never really met you outside of just social media until Jonathan Peck. Now, how'd you come across old John?
Wow. Jonathan and I met through Jason from Sniper Hog Lights.
Ah, there you go.
So Jason was doing a show here in McAllen a number of years ago. And Curtis, who worked with Jason at the time, stopped me. And he said, man, we just had a couple of guys talking about you, asking if we knew you.
There you go.
And it all started there.
Yeah.
And the connections were made and friendships were forged, and it's been cool ever since.
Yeah.
So then Jason introduced me to Jonathan, and at the time I was doing pro staff for Pulsar.
Gotcha.
And I worked a show with Jonathan.
Right.
You know, I worked the booth with him since I was familiar with the product.
Great.
I said, hey, I'd be more than happy to help. You know,
Yeah,
you're a friend
absolutely.
of Jason. Hey, cool with me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and we were down here hunting last year. Yeah, it was last year, earlier in the year, and we were at the Medio, and John goes, I talked to Corey, and you want to kill Nil guy? And I said, do what? I said, man, all we got are little 243s, 6mm arc. I was like, we are not equipped for that, but we can definitely come back. And so that's how I met you, was John. And he spoke very highly of you, man, talking about, great dude. Oh, you're gonna love him, John. You're gonna love him. You got to get down there. And so we did. It was what do you think? About a month later, I think we finally got
Month
all
and a
the
half.
tickets. Yeah, all the tickets lined up and got all the schedules lined up to come down. But yeah, so who is the Hog Sniper? What is it that you'd like to share with the world? What makes Corey tick?
The Hog Sniper is just a person who loves being in the outdoors.
Right.
Grew up hunting small game. My dad had me on a bolt action 12 gauge with a wooden stock.
Oh, wow.
And he literally took me out to the field and put some large branches up. And he said, if you can hit that group of branches and knock it down, because he had it set up in
Right.
a little teepee.
Oh, there you
He
go.
said, if you can hit it and knock it down, you can hunt with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? I said, we're not going to start with the 410?
Yeah.
Because my brother was using the 410. I have an older brother named Johnny. He's 5 years older.
Right.
And he's like, no, if you're going to hunt with me, this is what you're going to learn on.
Wow.
And
Straight with the big boy.
yeah, and let me tell you something. He wasn't giving me low brass. He wanted to test my resolve to see how much I really wanted to hunt.
Right.
Needless to say, I wasn't going to let Dad down.
No.
And I knocked it down. And when I did,
It probably knocked you down. Too.
it knocked me back a few steps.
Right.
And I gave him the gun and worked my shoulder around a little bit.
Right.
And what little bit of chest meat I had at the time. Because I think at the time I was about 11 years old.
Right.
And that's when it started.
Yeah.
And watching my dad work the dogs, because we did rabbit hunting and squirrels.
Gotcha.
Now, we lived in Maryland, and there was a lot of land back in that time. I'm born in 69, so you're talking late 70s,
Right.
early 80s, we're into this hunting thing for me.
Right.
I believe I remember Pop Warner football for me started in 1978, but that's also the same time Dad was introducing me to the outdoor
The
world.
outdoors, absolutely.
Right. So we watching my dad work the dogs. We had two dogs that were amazing. They were beagles, Spot and Charlie. They were amazing. And my passion grew from there. Now, like I said, there was a lot of land that we had access to. But for some reason, deer hunting
Right.
wasn't one of those things we worried about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Was it not popular in the area? There was not a lot of deer, or just not interested. Like your dad wasn't. That's kind of not his game of choice.
I don't think he was interested at the time.
Right.
Now you fast forward, Dad retires, and he's in a hunt club.
Oh,
He
yeah.
has a lease like 2 hours away.
He's got more time.
He's getting in his tree stands and stuff.
Right.
So it's something that he picked up later on.
Gotcha.
So fast forward, I did my military time, did my government contract time, still doing government work. I get to Texas in 2016. And I've always had that passion for hunting. I took the small game hunting and my military background, and it just went together.
Right.
It just went together. And it's just something that was in me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love to give back. When I harvest the animal, I like sharing the meat. I like
The camaraderie of the hunt, the success,
all of that. And down here with the hogs, I have to give a shout out to my friend Tracy Ponder from Crossbar Tactical. Tracy, I met again at the McAllen show.
Right.
I've met some great people at the McAllen show.
Right.
That we are friends still today. Understand, I just came down to Texas in 2016, and I've done more than some people have done all their lives here.
Right. And now Texas is, I'm telling you, this is a target-rich environment. This is the mecca of game animals. I tell you, every time we get back to the Carolinas, even though we have a deep love for the Carolinas, we're always like, man, when are we going to get back down to Texas?
Listen, I have relatives that have moved from Maryland and relocated to Texas and never came back other than to visit family.
Right.
And when I got here, I immediately understood why.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely.
Immediately understood.
And we honestly, we've caught ourselves this trip, especially while we were driving from the Medio to here, I was like looking at the time on the GPS traveling from, I said, so right here would be about halfway between Corey and John. I said, so keep these towns in mind. Maybe we might need to look around here when we're coming in. So she's like, all right. She's like looking at it. She's like, all right, I'll keep these towns in mind. I said, hey, if we can get a couple acres here or there just to have kind of like a home base to travel back, we are seriously considering. I mean, because we have such a ball with everybody here, and like you're saying, the camaraderie and the people here.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I mean, just and we'll talk about a little bit later about La Cantina and your friends and stuff like that. And and that I guess is what I grew up with in my hunt clubs in the Carolinas that has long gone. Right. And then, here it seems like it's still thriving, the camaraderie and hanging out with everybody and the social time, where the days of, and there's still a few, don't get me wrong, but it's not as, how would you say, it's not popular, but it's not as,
prevalent.
Yeah, it's not, like it used to be like the norm.
Yeah.
There were so many clubs, so many groups of people hanging out. And everybody went to the corner store where they checked in deer, and you were hanging out and seeing what everybody got. When they went online checking and calling it in, that stopped, right? So that you lost that kind of social aspect of it. So then you just had the hunt clubs, and all the dog clubs started dissolving, and then it started turning into just, you're hunting by yourself or with a couple buddies. But down here, it seems like it's still going pretty strong.
Yeah, because I guess in Georgia and other places, you guys use dogs to push the deer to a certain area.
Yeah, we sure did. Yeah, in North Carolina, that's actually how I was raised, was old Buckshot Hunt Club. And we would show up on a Saturday, and there would be, no kidding, 50 people there around the campfire. On a slow weekend, we had 30. But usually about 50 people or so around the campfire, making breakfast, hanging out, coming up with a game plan for the day. We would go out and hunt, push the deer, harvest a bunch of deer, come back at lunch, skin a deer, cooking lunch. Then the same thing after lunch, we would turn out again. At night, it was just, big social time. Everybody, while we're skinning deer, there's another group of people in the kitchen cooking dinner, and everybody's eating and talking about the success of the day and hanging out. And man, I yearn for those days so bad. Like sometimes I wonder where it went, but coming down here, like I said, and Beth, she wasn't exposed to that at all because she didn't hunt like I did growing up.
Yeah.
So she never got that aspect of it. So when she came down here and she was hanging out with me, you, Emilio, and Carlos, she was like, "Oh my God, this is awesome!"
Yeah, that's a interesting concept because I didn't know anything about hunt clubs either.
Right.
So what may have been a hunt club back then, I just saw as my dad's friends and family because I had my dad hunted with my uncles and other friends, and we all sort of lived in the same area. Yeah. So I don't know if that was a hunt club. I just saw it as friends and family. Absolutely,
yeah.
So it could have been something back then, but I don't know. All I know is I wanted a part of it.
Oh, absolutely. So you met all those guys at the McAllen show.
Yeah.
And then so you started really kind of hunting here about that timeline? Or?
So here's how it went down. So the guy that I mentioned earlier, Tracy Ponder, he has been very law enforcement friendly.
Right.
And he had some tactical gear that I wanted to introduce to the people that I was working for or am working for. And he was very appreciative to have that opportunity set up for him.
Right.
So after everything was said and done, he said, "Man, I don't know how I can thank you." I said, "You know what? Can you get me on a hog hunt?" Now, bear in mind, I just got down here in 2016, so I think this was around 2017 when I met him. And I'd been watching all the hunt channels and Sportsman Channel and Outdoor and Hunt Channel and everything. And I just saw these hogs, and I was just like, man, I'm gonna get down with that,
Absolutely.
I want some of that action. And the fact that they were an invasive species and they created so much havoc, I was like, man, this is a win-win.
Yeah.
So
maximum carnage.
So I said, "Tracy, if you could hook that up, man, I'd greatly appreciate it." So I'll never forget. It was April 14th. No, April 4th. He said, "Hey, come on up." No, April 18th. "Come on up. I got it set up for you." I said, "Outstanding." My dad had just flew in. I said, "Hey, I got my dad with me. Come on, bring him. Let's go." So we go up to Dayton, we stay at his place, and we go to Anahuac. It's a place, Anahuac, Texas. And how can I say this? If I knew then what I know now about the hunting, it would have been a kill fest. That guy put us on so many hogs, so many sounders. This place was infested with hogs.
Wow.
But it's my first time using thermal.
Right.
there's a lot of safety that goes into this hunting
Absolutely,
thing.
yeah.
So, he was very good about, okay, we're going to stage a couple of you here. Who's up? Take the shot. Boom. There was one point when we were all online. It was like 3 or 4 of us. And I'm shooting myself in the ass right now. We were set up on a sounder, and I know we were probably 75, 80 yards away. And we didn't hit one damn hog.
Hey, we have had those nights. Holy smokes.
And I was like, how is this even possible?
Right.
So fast forward, and the night was getting late, and we stopped in the middle of a road, and I got on top of the buggy, and I said, I see his heat signature there and the heat signature there. And basically it's like to the north of me and to the west of me. And at that time, I wasn't good at identifying, because
Right.
the type of thermal and just being new to it.
Absolutely.
Being new to it. So he takes a look. He said, choose which one you want to make a move on. I said, hey, you're in charge. Let me know which one we have the best, possibility on. So we get to it, and my military training kicked in, and I was okay walking without the thermal walking and everything, because my eyes were acclimated.
Right.
And I could see his shadow in front of me. I was cool with that. Did many a night travels, night marches. Night maneuvers and stuff. So I was cool. I wasn't worried about that. Had my snake boots. I was like, I ain't worried about nothing. So we get on this hog, and instead of doing a headshot, I reverted to my military training, center mass.
Right.
So instead of hitting that damn thing and behind the ear where I should have, or, up in the shoulder area, I went center mass, gave it a gut shot.
Oh, yeah.
And it moved around, and then I shot it again. But that was my first hog.
Are you? Yeah.
That was my very first hog. And I have an outline of a picture. The outline of the picture made into a silhouette. Me leaning next to the hog with my gun. And from that point, after that trip, I went back to Harlingen, and I just started buying an arsenal.
You were hooked.
I was hooked.
You were hooked.
I was hooked, and I never looked back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I educated myself, made a couple of mistakes buying the ATN, but I quickly learned.
The marketing budget of that company, if they would put the money in their products more than they do on their marketing budget, son, they would have something.
Yeah.
I tell you, because I think that is the biggest, I would say, company that everybody recognizes. I would say, no matter if you're in the hunting industry, deep or not, or you have no clue. Everybody's heard of ATN, right? So, yeah, there's that. I wouldn't fault you for that. I mean, everybody knows about it. So
you mentioned those three letters to me. I said, "Oh, what? Another terrible notion."
Oh Lord!
But anyway,
then so now you're shooting Pulsar, and so you got on the Pulsar Pro stuff.
Yeah.
How long after that before you got in there?
Let me see. I think I got on Pro Staff. I started, so that was 2018 when I shot my first hog, and I think I made it to Pro Staff by like 2019, 2020.
Yeah, because you were in it.
I mean,
wide open.
I was.
Son.
Listen, I had a lease that was 2.5 hours away, and I would hit it.
You were driving
2 or 3 times a week.
Right, because I know we were talking about that. We were discussing. So one of my leases is about an hour, and you were like, oh, you know what? I used to drive 2.5, and I've got some places. Cape Fear property is 2 hours 45 minutes, but when the pigs are there, we're like, you know what? That's worth the drive. We're gonna do it.
Yeah. But word got around, and videos started to pick up, and I was working on my craft.
Right.
I took it seriously.
Absolutely.
Because I was thinking about the damage that they actually do. Mm-hmm. And I consider myself a protector of sorts. So
Right.
I just wanted to do my part. It's a
Doing your
passion.
part, yeah, doing your work.
You know, it was a passion. So I went into it, man. I'm like, you're not going to find, if you let me loose on your property, I'm going to respect it, but you're not going to have anybody work it. I'll push those hogs somewhere else.
Right.
I'll get them off
You'll
your
put
property.
it on them, absolutely. Either they're going to die or they're going to move on.
Because I'm going to hit them
They
where
say,
they
man,
eat.
you know, some hot stuff is flying over on that piece of property.
Look, I'm going to hit them where they eat. I'm going to hit them where they sleep.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hit them in their travel corridor. I'm going to hit them any which way I can.
Right.
You know, and don't think because you come out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning consistently, let me find out
Yep.
that's your go-to. I'm going to meet you right there.
Absolutely.
I'm going to meet you right there. I'm that dude.
Set your sights and it's over, son.
It's it.
There you go. So,
it.
so the hogs, you got real deep into that. Now, I guess this is where when John introduced me to you was over the Neil guy.
Yeah.
When did that start?
Neil guy happened around about the same time. It was about 2019,
Right.
between 2019 2020. And I never heard of a Neil guy until I came to Texas. And all I kept hearing was how good the meat was.
Right.
I said, I gotta have the opportunity.
Check it out.
And people always say, have you ever shot a Neil guy? Have you ever shot one? Well, the first time I shot one, it was with the Pulsar, and it was the first person I called. Surprisingly enough, was my mom. Didn't even call my dad, you know, because I was talking to her so much about it.
Right.
You know, I just had to let her know.
Oh, yeah.
Because I had a chance to try the meat.
Right.
You know, so mom likes to cook. Dad loves to cook too, but you know, it's just something about it. Look, Mom, you gotta try something new.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that I was saying, we didn't honestly. I would say, we just never really got into exotics because it was just my ignorance thinking that all exotics were fenced animals, right? So when people start talking about exotics and things like that, I'm like, never been interested in them. Don't care about it.
Nope.
If you got an animal on the fence, we'll go in there and take some great pictures. I'll video it because I think they're amazing animals. But there's no interest at all for me to get in the fence. So exotics I never really got familiar with them. And so even when John was like a Neil guy, and I was like, Neil guy, I've heard of so many Neil guys, but I am not familiar with Neil guy at all, honestly. And we were like, we don't even know. So of course, me and Beth started doing some investigation here, some research. Like, okay, let's see this because first off, we're about to go after this game animal we know nothing about, but now we know that it's a free range animal, right?
Oh,
we're
yeah.
like, holy smokes, okay. So we start looking at it and we're like, world's largest antelope. Okay, well, world's largest antelope. That's interesting. And we looked at it. It's like, dang, that thing looks like a big old horse that Beetlejuice done shrunk its head or something.
Yeah.
It's kind of awkward. Yeah, with some horns. And we're like, man, this is a weird looking joker, you know? Then, so we're looking at kill zones and stuff like that, trying to get ourselves familiar with it before we come down here to meet you. Because honestly, like still to this day, I mean, up until that point, we had no idea because again, I'm thinking they're just along the line with like a zebra or something here. It's in some big preserve. But then when John was like, no, they're free range down here and we never really dove into the species at all because my ignorance, I just assumed, preserve animal, right?
Yeah.
But so I was pretty intrigued by it. So when we came down here, I was like, we got to see what's going on. And you're like, yeah, they're everywhere. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they, so you got your first one.
Yeah.
And then you got, so what was, I guess, what would be, I guess back then when you first started, did you see yourself swaying from the pigs a little bit or you got into the pigs or after you got that Neil guy, where were you at?
No, I could never get away from the pigs. Right. Never. But definitely harvesting the Neil guy was a feather in the cap, you know.
And they're huge.
They are. and trust me, you have to be prepared
Yeah.
to get that sucker out of there, especially when you hunt by yourself.
Absolutely. Oh Lord.
You are not picking it up and
Yeah.
putting it in a truck by yourself.
No, and for everybody, if you guys have seen season 10, you guys have seen the episode. If you haven't, you can go check it out. It's on the VOD library now on the Hunt channel, and actually, it is airing as we speak because they're re-airing, so they're reruns right now. But the episode, Beth harvests her first nil guide, then I harvest my first nil guide, and you can see the struggles of me and Corey trying to get these nilgai on the back of the truck. And there's two of us now. We're no slouch, but it was everything we had to get these things. So I'm telling you, by yourself, woo.
Yeah. So average nilgai, like a young bull, let's say 2-3 years old, it can. I just say a young nilgai.
Right.
That thing can start off at 270 pounds.
Shoo.
270.
Right.
Then you get into your big cows.
Yeah.
Those can run 400 easy.
Yeah, because the cow, I don't know what the cow I harvested was, but she was stout. We didn't weigh her, but man, what a monster.
When you get a nilgai, if you get a trophy, and they consider, I believe, a trophy with 9-inch horns,
right?
Or better. You've nailed a good nilgai if it's around that 500-600 pound range.
Yeah.
I heard stories. Oh, it was 1,200 pounds, and I'm like, all right, whatever.
1,200. Was there 2 of them? 3 of them?
Yeah,
3
like whatever floats your boat. But
that's the same about the hogs, though. Everybody's killed a 300-pound pig or a 400-pound.
Yeah.
Son, if you ever seen a 300-pound pig or a 400-pound pig in real life,
listen,
yeah.
I have killed a pig that was 362 pounds, and I've got the picture and video.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was hunting with a group of guys called the Southern Night Stalkers, and they're out of College Station. And at the time, they had this decked out Escalade Cadillac, and they called it the Pig Rig.
Is that the one they could drive from the top of it?
Yes,
I talked to them guys on social media quite a bit on Instagram. They were big on Instagram when I was talking to them.
So I had just gone up to hunt F.E. Hill,
right, with
John. I did a hog hunt up there, and Jason Jeter was my guide on that hunt. Very cool, man.
Right.
Former rodeo bronco rider.
Yeah,
very cool guy. Still friends today. Anyway, I contacted them that I was going to be heading back, and they said, "Well, stop through, come hunt." And man, we clean, and that's the picture that I have on my wall.
Right.
With all those pigs, I think we killed like 24 pigs.
That's awesome.
And we just had a blast.
Yeah. Well, seeing those guys, I know when they came up with that Escalade, because I saw that they had the steering wheel come through the top and they could actually drive it. And I was like, you guys got to be kidding me, because now I've got a shooting rack on top of my truck, and I've got 2 seats on it. And when they did that, when I saw that, I was like, you guys have got to be kidding. I never thought about driving the vehicle from the top of the vehicle like they have.
Yeah, because Chet, this dude, like, you're a mechanic. Yeah. He knows his stuff, man. He's doing this. He has this Chevy that he did a whole bunch of stuff to. Amazing. But let me tell you, he had 4 chairs up top with the gun rest, the whole 9, lights. Oh, man, wow. It was a class act. It was.
And they built another one, didn't they? I forget what was the newest one they built, because I remember that Cadillac. And then they started building another one after that. And I guess, social media does this thing. If you're not interacting with people, it just kind of goes away. I'm going to have to look them back up again. But I know they were building something else after that. And I remember, and then and that was a few years ago. And then again,
Yeah, they were really cool, man. Yeah. Really cool to hang with. And we had a great night. But that son of a gun, so when I first started, I was shooting 6.5 Creedmoor.
Right.
So how it went down was we all had our hog. Everybody had their hog locked in on 3, 2, 1.
Right.
We're gonna shoot. Well, at the time, when they started off at 3, I was good. But by the time they got to 1, I ended up having to give it a Texas heart shot because it was going away.
Right. Yeah.
So I dropped the rear axle on her.
Yeah.
And then I proceeded to put 3 more in.
Yeah.
And it finally went down. But it was like I was walking it up to the finally get the head. And they had that pig rig had a full blown scale on it, digital scale.
Yeah.
So we tied it up, hoisted it up. The 362, man. I'm sitting next to the scale like, and listen, this is my arm span. You see that right now. Those of you listening to this, you can't see what I'm doing right now, but my arms are spread like Michael Jordan right now. And that hog was tip to tip. That's how long it was.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was that damn long.
Yeah.
And
that's a monster.
She was loaded. She was loaded.
Oh, wow.
So I probably took out, with that one shot, I probably took out about
25
10.
or so, probably.
I mean,
Lord,
great times, man.
Yeah. So you're thinking that the average Neil guy, young bull, starting at 275, the big cows being about 400. Now that big bull that you killed, the one that's on your wall, you said that one was.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to weigh it, but I had to use my 1-ton pulley.
Yeah.
To get it up into a tree and hoist it up and then lower it back down into my truck because it was just me that night. And I was not letting that thing go to waste for no reason. And
that's a tank. Holy smokes.
So luckily I had the material necessary to get the job done, threw the hoist up in a tree. Mm-hmm. I knew what I had to do, that once I got it up, I was going to back the truck up and then lower it back down.
Right.
But it was a process. It took me probably to move it from where I dropped it to get it to a tree high enough so that I can get it up because my truck was lifted. So I had to really get it up there and lower it back down. It took me about an hour and a half to do everything because, again, it was manual.
Trying to
pull in and just trying to get everything. And then I drug it, so I messed up one side. So if you look at my mount, it's turning its head because that one shoulder, that whole side was rubbed off. So we had to hide that shoulder. And that's why the mount is the way it is. But
it's kind of turning to the right a little bit. Yeah.
I was deployed at the time, and I'm watching this thing frequent my camera. And I said, when I get back, me and you are going to have a discussion. I got back from Portland I touched back down in Harlingen around 10:30. I got to my house by 11. That Neil guy was on the ground by 2 a.m.
Holy smokes.
I was on a mission.
You're on, yeah.
I was on a mission. I was on a mission.
Awesome.
And after everything was said and done, that bull yielded me actually about 140 pounds of meat.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Absolutely.
And most people who don't understand an animal that size only yielding that much meat.
Right. Well, you're thinking like your average deer, you're probably getting 30, 40 pounds maybe or so after you process it. So you think that, you figure 100 and, what do you say, 140 or 150? Yeah, that's
so
quite a bit.
So by the time you get rid of the intestines, that's one chunk of weight.
Yeah.
Their hide is extremely heavy.
Yes.
Extremely heavy. And then once you debone it, so you're losing a lot. Plus, you take away the head.
Right.
You're obviously not going to have that.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those who ever think about harvesting a nilgai and you've weighed it and you think you're going to get, let's say it weighs in at 400 and you think you're going to get 200 pounds worth of meat, think again.
Yeah.
Think again, because everything that needs to come off of it,
It's heavy.
it's heavy.
Everything's heavy.
But you're talking about getting rid of the intestines. You're talking about getting rid of that heavy ass hide. You're talking about cleaning up the meat so you're not having a whole bunch of silver skin. I won't even talk about the fat because it doesn't have fat.
No, very lean.
Very lean.
Yes.
But they're fibrous. If you don't clean off that silver skin, it's not pleasant to eat.
Right.
But once you take care of that, if you want your meat presented to you nicely, they're gonna take some of that meat away because of the silver skin.
Absolutely.
But once you get past that, it is like
Yes.
bags of filet mignon. So
it has been awesome. I know me and Beth have truly enjoyed the nilgai we got with you last year, our first nilgais, and that was something like we've shared with family and friends, and we have hunts. We cook up different meals with it, and it definitely is a great flavorful meat.
Yeah.
And it was quite a bit. Honestly, I think between me and Beth's nilgai last year, we ate on it while we grilled right there at the La Cantina, and then I took some, and we ate on it for the couple of days right there, right while we were, cleaning it. And I think after Emilio processed it and cleaned it up and everything, we still ended up with over 100 pounds of meat after that, and it was quite a bit still, so it was a lot, especially after we grilled up a good bit of it and ate on it. We had several people over, so everybody was enjoying it. It was a good time.
had meatloaf, nilgai meatloaf tonight.
That was that was right, absolutely. So, and I know after we hooked up with John and we came down here, for those of you who watched the show, you guys definitely have to check it out. You'll be able to see the actual hunt and how it all took place. But honestly, could not believe how quick Beth's hunt happened.
Yeah,
that was nuts. And I'm sure you're probably like, good Lord, like that. That sometimes you're like, sometimes it happens that way, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, sometimes you got to put in the work, and you're walking miles trying to track them down.
Absolutely. So I know we got there. We first got in, and you said, "Well, let's go. We'll get to it." And I said, "All right, well, let's do it." So we loaded up. Went out to your property, and I'll never forget. You were like, "Okay, well, I'll tell you when the line starts, and we'll start scanning. And when we see one, we'll go after it." And I said, "Okay, cool." So I hadn't started scanning or nothing, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Okay, well, the property starts now." And I'm like, "I think there's a nilgai." And you're like, "What?" And I'm like, I kid you not, we didn't cross that property line 10 yards. And I said, "I think that's a nilgai." And you were like, I'm sure you were probably like, "Yeah, right." Then you looked, you said, "Yeah, that's a nilgai." And so next thing you know, we set up on it. And from the time we first spotted it, the time she dropped it was what, 15-ish, 20?
12, somewhere between 12 and 16 minutes. Somewhere.
And honestly, I will say that was probably the best thing that could have happened, because we were getting tore up by those mosquitoes, because this was May.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? It was May.
About that.
Yeah, because in April I was there, so mid to late May is when we came down, I think.
Yeah.
And so
mosquitoes were on a mission.
Oh God, they were getting. I remember watching the footage. You can see Beth. She's like,
"Oh my God!"
Yeah, knocking all the mosquitoes off of her, and she was like, "They are tearing me up,"
Yeah.
So that was unbelievable. Man. And then we got that one into the truck and went to La Cantina, and that was the experience, I guess, like going back, like we were originally talking about, the camaraderie and the fun times and talking to people and the fellowship. Exactly. We took the nilgai over to what they call La Cantina, and it was a place, it's Emilio's, and it's where they process the nilgai and the hogs that you kill and stuff like that. Music playing, just
grills going.
yeah, the grill's going. We dove right into skinning. It was so much fun when we just jumped in, and it wasn't until afterwards that Beth was like, "I didn't take a picture of my nilgai," because we like got into it and everybody was having fun and laughing and telling the stories and hunting. And she was like, she never actually took a picture with her nilgai because we were just having so much fun, and she was enjoying it. Everybody was enjoying it. And that was what she was just like, I love this. Like, what? And she's never been exposed to that until this trip. And I said, and it kind of, yeah, it was, it didn't really bother me, but it was almost like, you're right. Like, you have not been exposed to that because in the South, well, not the South, but I mean, I guess you guys are further south than us, but in the Carolinas, Southeast, where like, that used to be the way it always was. Yeah. And then that's lost. Again, it's not doesn't happen that much anymore. So I'm like, that is crazy that she never experienced that, and she absolutely loved it, And so how did you meet Carlos and Emilio?
Well, I met Carlos through a mutual friend of ours named Jason. Jason has J&M Guns. He's my gunsmith who does all of my work.
Right.
I met Jason who used to work at Bass Pro Shop with Emilio. And then Jason broke off, did his own thing, opened up his own shop, FFL, gunsmithing, the whole nine.
Right.
So one night, Jason and I went down to the range because they had a hog problem down there, and I was tasked with getting rid of that problem for them.
Right.
So we go down there, we harvest the hog. I said, well, what do you want to do? He said, well, let's go by my friend's place, take care of it there. So he calls him up. Boom, we're on our way. So we processed the hog. He said, hey, if you ever need a hand, call me.
Yeah.
And that was it. I started taking care of another property up north in Hargill, and they were infested with hogs. Like one night by myself, I shot 20 hogs by myself.
There you go.
It was a shoot fest, and it was about 1,000 acres,
right,
of property that, like, I would go to one field, then drive over here. There's another field. They had different sounders all over the place. And so I was harvesting a lot of hogs. And I said, listen,
do you know anybody that wants that?
Yeah, so
because that's when I'm thinking of shooting large groups like that, I'm like,
yeah,
I need to make some calls.
So, long story short, we started donating the meat.
Right.
So we would clean it up, process it, and he would get on the phone and divvy it out to families that needed the meat.
Perfect.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we actually did a segment where we donated the meat to a church,
right?
And we did hot plates with the prepared meals.
Oh, that's
and
great.
handed out probably about 75 meals.
Right.
It's just something to give.
That's awesome.
But
that is awesome.
Yeah, so that's been our thing. Whenever I harvest something, the meat gets split up. I'll top off my freezer when I need to. I got 1, 2, 3, and plus the freezers in the fridge. We have a fridge and a freezer outside, on the deck. So as long as everything stays topped off, everything else just gets split up and divvied out. And I'm like, look, if you know somebody who needs meat,
help out in the community. That is awesome.
Pay it forward.
Absolutely.
Because again, a lot of people down here run a business. doing nilgai hunts. Kudos to them. I'm glad they have that opportunity. A lot of people down here don't have the means or are as fortunate as other people to have a hot meal.
Right. Yeah.
And I want
Or to have the resources,
Yeah.
the equipment, the equipment that you need to even harvest that, plus the access to harvest.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to it. Right.
So since they're on that invasive species list, one, we're getting rid of them. Two, we're feeding people, and that's the cool part for me.
That's awesome.
That's the cool part because I know how to harvest them and get the meat in my freezer. It brings me more pleasure to give the meat away and not sell it.
Right.
Not trying to sell it. That's not my
Right.
thing. It brings me more pleasure to give it away to someone who would appreciate it and needs
Absolutely.
it.
That's a lot of meat too. That could definitely help a lot of families.
Yeah. So,
Especially with the numbers that you've been putting down. So, holy smokes! I know because when we went over there to La Cantina, there was a board that had the numbers that you had killed, and they were keeping up with everything that you had harvested, and you put a hurting on them, son.
yeah, it's and trust me, you should see it since you've left.
I know. I was hoping. I said, I know this. Man, we this week. Let me just let everybody know we are down here in Texas, and we came to hunt with Jason and Corey, and then we're heading up to the Medio to hunt with Jonathan Peck this upcoming week. We came down to Texas, and every time we've come to Texas, we have about sweated to death. It's always a sauna here. It feels, even when the wind blows, it just feels like you're standing in front of a hot blow dryer, because the wind it doesn't even give you any sort of relief. This week we come down and it is 29 degrees with 20 mile an hour wind and 40 mile an hour gusts. And I said, where in the hell are we? Because I know we're not in Texas. I didn't even think that Texas could get this dang cold. Mm-hmm. And so we came down and honestly, we hung out at Sniper Hoglight's compound with Jason. A couple nights we didn't even go out. We just hung out. We did some videos because we're like, there's no way we're not going to see nothing. And we did go out one time. We made a loop around one of his properties, and again, 40 mile an hour gust. The buggy was swaying side to side while we were driving down, and he's like, locking up one of the gates. And he's like, man, what do you think about this wind? I said, well, what I'm thinking is, why in the hell aren't we back at the truck yet? Yeah, I said, we are done, son. So anyway, so we get back, and so we come down here, and Lord and behold, it is cold and rainy here, and terrible weather conditions. Today was the only day that it actually got above 40. Because it's been under 40 since we've been here the last 2 nights. And now we had opportunities to harvest nilgai. Now, Friday night. Friday night, we could have harvested several nilgai, but the mist and the rain had wet the cameras, wet the optics, and even the thermals we can see. But the humidity and the actual moisture on the lenses, I was like, even if we videoed off of the optics, it's terrible.
Yeah,
the cameras are terrible. I was like, so if we just wanted to collect meat or the harvest, we could do it. Yeah. But we had zero footage for the TV show.
Piece of purpose.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, so we're not getting any footage. I was like, but we can just shoot just to shoot. I said, well, that's pointless. So we called it that night, and we're like, well, we'll just try another time. But the animals are here. They're all over, but it's just the conditions of being able to get the footage. It's just been – I have never in my life thought that Texas would, have weather like this. The conditions are crazy.
Yeah, on 2 points. Yes, Texas will get that cold. we had that freeze of 2019, and it was absolutely crazy. And number two, trying to stalk a Neil guy, they're four-legged ninjas.
Oh man. Oh man. Well, and that was the bow stalk that we did
Yeah.
yesterday. Yesterday we put eyes, well, 2 times. The day before we put eyes on 5 or 6, and they were skint back running mock Jesus across the property. We couldn't get on them. And then we put eyes on another group yesterday, and we were going to try to get on them with my bow. And so we went around. I smelled them briefly, and I was like, I could smell them, but it was just kind of faint. So they were probably 100 yards or so away from us. And then by the time we looped around, they were gone.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, they're out. I said, well, but they were everywhere. But I'm telling you, they are something else for such a big animal.
They're quiet.
How they can move around.
They're
Holy
quiet.
smokes! Yeah,
You get like they can tiptoe past you and you not even know it.
yeah,
Last week, maybe 70 yards away, had a group of 5, and they snuck up behind us.
oh wow,
Yeah, and it was only because I said, with this wind and everything, I just got a feeling if we're gonna see it, they're gonna come up from behind.
yeah,
So Carlos was out with me, and sure enough, Corey, there they are. He was checking my 6.
yeah,
I'm looking out at the main field.
right.
He was checking my 6.
Yeah, they
Sure
were.
enough, they came out, and the wind was it just happened to be a southeast wind.
Right,
So they came out to a little bit west of us,
right,
and one broke away from the group and moved further north.
right.
And soon as he got in line with our scent, he ran back to the group and was like, "Hey, something's going on here,
Right.
and you might want to bug out." Well, everybody got the memo except for 2. He was like, "Hey, where's everybody going?" Pop! Oh, that's where.
So I can't tell you how many times if a group of deer over there catch me and they run off, and there's one left that's sitting there chewing on crayons, he's getting.
That's it.
Yeah, he's the one that's like, what? Doot. I said, yep, you coming with me, son.
Yeah, my mama done told me.
That is awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
Well, oh man, dude, we are so jacked up. We appreciate you having us this week again, and when we'll be back. But everybody go check out Corey's social media. Look up Hog Sniper. It's Hog Sniper Outdoors on Facebook. What's
And it's SNYPER.
Yes.
Sniper with a Y, not an I.
So when you look at it, yes, Hog Sniper, HOG space SNYPER, Hog Sniper. So check them out. What's your handle on Instagram?
Hog_sniper.
Right, and then TikTok,
Hog Sniper.
Hog Sniper, and then YouTube.
Hog Sniper Outdoor Channel.
Outdoor channel. There you go, guys. So go check him out. He's got a lot of videos, and I just honestly gave him all the footage that we filmed on a TV show. So he's got all that footage. He's going to kind of give it his flair and get it up on his YouTube. So y'all go subscribe. You guys know how hard it is for everybody in the outdoor industry. So get over there, subscribe, like some of his videos, share some of his videos, give him some love, because YouTube does not care about us, and they're not going to push the hunting content. So y'all get out there and make sure you engage with his channel, as well as follow him on his other ones. But be sure to head over to all 704 Outdoor social media, and you'll be able to see the adventures and all the pictures and videos from this trip, and keep up with everybody. Keep up with him and us, because we've got some more adventures coming. Corey, had a blast, brother.
Yeah, man. And if you have any questions, please hit me in the inbox, DM me. I'm a down to earth person.
Yeah.
I'm a blue collar guy.
Absolutely.
And it's all about making friendships, relationships, and waking up the next morning to do it all over again. So if you got any questions, let me know.
Yeah.
and we're going to keep this train rolling.
There you go, guys. So again, reach out to the old Hog Sniper. You got any questions about old Neil guy or South Texas hog hunting? He's the man. And we will be back. So you guys are going to see a whole lot more of 704 Outdoors with the Hog Sniper. We appreciate you guys listening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.